Don't do bad. As if you recognise our next guest's name, it's probably because you came to the Run Show South and saw him there. Mike is someone who we should have got on the podcast a long time ago, but by virtue of being a friend of mine, I guess I've never objectively stood back and thought, oh my God, why have we got Mike on? He's incredible. But Mike is actually the reason really why I did Comrades Marathon, because he did it before it was cool years ago. He was on his 10th one when...
You popularised it. You popularised Comrades. Is that what we're claiming now? Amazing.
He's like Jody to the Marathon de Sables, you know.
Yeah.
He's that level. But not only is he, since doing his 10th, got into the GB 24-hour team, but he's recently started, from what I can tell, is the first, not necessarily professional, but the first ultra... Actually, maybe it's not even ultra. The first race team in the UK that's not sponsored by a brand, but actually is just focused on performance. Probably focused on ultra, but we're gonna find out about all of those things. So welcome on the podcast, the wonderful Mike. Oh, and I'll mention the book as well, Mike. I remember that. One Track Mind. We've talked about it on the poddy previously. Jody and I have both had it, both read it. So welcome to the podcast, the wonderful Mike Stocks.
Hey, thanks guys. Thank you, David. I've been sitting here by the phone all these years waiting for the call, and at last, just absolutely thrilled to be here. So
I was one digit out, Mike. What a nightmare, eh? What a nightmare. That 4 and a 7 are easily confused.
Yeah, I thought if I'm not on by like episode 5,000 or something, I'm going to get out. But, yeah.
Not far off. Not far off. How are things for you currently in North London?
Yeah, good. Yeah, pretty good. Obviously, lots going on, as you said, with the team and all that kind of thing. But yeah, otherwise, leafy North London. Most of the trees are still upright after all the storms, and yeah, life is good.
Did you do? Were you at the national championships, perchance? I've been watching his side results from afar with admiration.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was going to go just for a bit of Schadenfreude, just to watch everyone going up the hills through the mud. Not as an athlete, but just as an observer. But yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't get there in the end. But yeah, it's actually really close to where I live, or kind of 5 or 10 minute run. So no excuse not to have been there. But yeah, didn't make it. I assume you were there. Well, Jody, you were there running through the mud for 12 days.
Yeah, I was there. I was there in spirit.
Always, yeah.
I don't think even Jody.
I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest. Is it anything at Parliament Hill?
Yeah, Parliament Hill.
I accidentally found out about that. Yeah.
I mean, I did try.
I to do it 1 year.
Yeah, it's one of those things you have to do. I did try for about half an hour to get it on YouTube, but if anyone knows how to click a link on a TV on YouTube, then please write in, put your answer on a postcard and let me know, because I could not get that right. But anyway, yeah, no, one day I'll actually run it as well.
Aren't you like a tech evangelist as a job, like a tech specialist?
Yeah, evangelists tend to be people who don't actually know kind of practical stuff and what to do. It's so knowing what's going to happen doesn't mean you can make it happen.
David's a running industry evangelist. I'm sure that's what it says on your LinkedIn profile. So that accords with
thought leader. Thought leader. Thought leader.
Thought leader. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I could not personally write one line of code of software, but yeah, I've run teams that have done that just by sort of saying, hey guys, wouldn't it be really cool if we could do this?
Oh, you like Steve Jobs?
Then they kind of, Steve Jobs without the money, the power, and the
and the job.
And the job. Yeah.
So what should we talk about first? Well, before we go to the team, should we actually rewind and because you were the first ultra runner I knew, I'm pretty sure. Because when I was a hasher, when I joined his side, no one else was doing it. And actually, other than like myself, yourself, and Lenny, no one else in his side really, from what I can tell, still does ultras. But we used to do our Sunday runs together when I was still discovering that 16 miles isn't the longest distance that a human's ever run in one day, and you'd be there running to the long runs and running from them. But do you want to, I guess, talk to
David,
us?
David, just step back into that point when you did still run, and each side and everything. What was your perception of an ultra runner? If it's the first ultra runner, how do you perceive it? Because it's very difficult now, because everyone's an ultra runner, it seems. But what was your perception about how that ultra runner was different? How he was different from anyone else? What kind of things would come to mind?
I mean, firstly, he was gorgeous. Could I just
You think that was a product of ultra running?
He must have been very tired.
If you run ultras, you end up being gorgeous, or you have to be gorgeous to run ultras. Is that the?
I think you all kind of look gorgeous to each other eventually, probably something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because Eastside has this really lovely element to it, where at 9 o'clock every Sunday they run from Highgate Tube, and you could just turn up even if you weren't signed up for the club. So I'd go to that, and while it's not necessarily focused on marathon training, a lot of people do it as part of their cycle. I just remember even then, like everyone kind of rotates who they're talking through to for like 2 hours, and Mike was one of the people I enjoyed speaking to most. But even then, you weren't really an ultra runner in how you were described. You were someone who was training for comrades. Like that's all. Okay. That was the sole focus, right?
Yeah, I think it's probably right. I was a bit obsessed with comrades. I say was, I still am. But I guess I broadened my obsession to sort of add a few other things. But yeah, I absolutely love comrades, and that was the main focus at the time. But I remember one of those early runs, you had a backpack. And it's like either this guy's doing an ultra of some sort, or he's got a very large packed lunch or something. Because we were jogging through near Kensington Palace, in Hyde Park. And I remember this like giant pack kind of bouncing around in your back, and me trying to figure out, what the hell's going on with this guy. It was, I think, probably one of the first couple of times we spoke. I mean, would you have been doing maybe it was just a packed lunch, or were you doing a sort of a stage event or something like that, a multi-day? Because you were doing stuff like that quite a long time ago, I think.
I mean, I think when we first met, I was still at the stage where I was wearing just any kind of shorts, any kind of top. I probably had it
at that stage.
Well, it was. I had the same policy of never buying kit back then, but no one was giving me kit.
So you basically you'd raided one of those clothes bins, and that's what you were running around with.
Yeah, I probably had like a litre of water in there, just in case. I've no idea, because I was so clueless, but gladly clueless, and unwilling to like research elements. But were you, like, in terms of your journey into running, when did comrades become part of that journey relative to everything else?
I think I did the marathon for quite a while. So I did the classic, 5K, 10K, half marathon thing. And then if you're a South African, then as Dave, then basically comrades is the only thing that counts. So to win the respect of my South African friends and my family, I had to do comrades at some point. So that kind of got me there the first time.
Would you,
A mere marathon obviously wouldn't achieve that. So for them to kind of see you as a proper runner, you have to go and run comrades. So that was kind of the first thing that got me down there. I'm trying to think when that was. It's probably about 15 years ago or something, at least.
And were you running in South Africa marathons first, or were you?
No. Yeah, I started here in my mid-30s, kind of doing stuff. It was the typical booze and smoke, drink and smoke until 30. Sort of start to stare mortality in the face in some way, get married before you lose all your hair. Actually, I missed the target on that one, but anyway, and then start running to try to kind of, I suppose, just get healthier and feel better. And so that all happened by kind of 35, and then quite quickly I got involved in the marathon. And then after a few years, comrades just became the thing that I had to do. And I went down the first time, did it incredibly badly, and then had to go back to kind of do it right.
Define incredibly badly, because I think our incredibly badly, well, a lot of people's incredibly badly might be a little bit different from yours. What aspect of it was incredibly bad?
Walking a lot in the second half, and not from sort of like really deep into the race. Yeah, there's this hill just after halfway called Nchunga, this massive hill, and I've done all this mental preparatory work. This is the danger of kind of mental preparation going wrong. All the stuff about I'm gonna be running up Nchunga, I'm gonna run up Nchunga, whatever. And I did. I ran up Nchunga, but unfortunately after that I stopped and I started walking. And I said to my dad after, but I was so focused on running up Nchunga. He said, yes, but next time focus on running up Polly Shorts, like the hill that comes kind of 20 miles later, and that would probably be more useful. But I just walked a lot. I went out a bit too fast, and the first half of the Up Comrades is mainly uphill. And I just learned a lot about pacing, but also I wasn't fit enough. I think I hadn't done any hill training and just things like that. So it's very different doing a London marathon or something, and then doing something where you've just got these massive hills that just sort of keep on coming. And it was kind of twice as far as I'd ever run before. Comrades is 2 marathons and a 5K, and it's a long way. And I think part of learning the race and learning ultras of any kind is that experience of doing it and starting to get your head around how far it is, how you should feel at different points, that it's okay to feel really tired, at halfway, things like that, and that it's all right and you're going to still be able to get to the end. So it was the beginning of that learning path, I suppose, but it probably took me about another 7 or 8 comrades to feel that I was getting it right. And you can only try every year. That's obviously the downside.
So it took you 7 or 8 comrades to get it right.
Yeah, it took a while.
That's a hell of an investment.
It is. That's a lot of flights. Whereas David came down, because all the years of me talking about it and we chatting about I'm going now.
Stood on the shoulders of giants.
I'm saying now, David, just take it easy, whatever. And I'm thinking, Silver, your first one would be incredible. He comes down, absolutely nails it, sub 7 hour. He still doesn't realize just how amazingly good that is. And he goes, it's like a mic drop, and he said he's never coming back. So
that's because I had all your. I mean, I'd had
done a Killian. You've done a Killian. Is that what you've done?
Right. I had all the local runners pacing around. But going back to that first time, can you remember people's reactions within the club to you telling them what you were doing?
Yeah, it was very far out, and that's the thing that's changed. Although now, if you're doing a 100-miler or a 24-hour or something, then it's that kind of reaction, but used to have that kind of reaction for something like Comrades or 100K or something. So, and it was genuinely unusual, whereas now, you were saying in our club, I mean, a quick shout out to our mate, Rob Shulman, who obviously, who is also like a real diehard a London Heathside ultramarathon runner, and a pretty good one as well. But apart from the few of us, and there's others doing 50Ks. A number of the guys go out and do 50K runs. So there's more of us doing it. Whereas then it was genuinely unusual, kind of. Was it nerdy? Maybe, I don't know. It was just something so niche, and it's become so mainstream in the last 15 years that I think people have to do something more and more nutty to surprise people, probably.
And was there, because I know when I trained there was that wonderful coach that I can't remember his name, that had the training plans that you could follow.
Jacob Howe.
Oh no, not for his side. With Comrades, there was
there's been a few
Coach
of them.
Parry.
Coach Parry. That's right.
And he'd have a monthly call for people. He'd then talk you through the hills. There would be. I did my own plan just based off my MDS training and switched some things. But was there something for you to follow at that time?
There was quite an interesting chat forum, if I remember, which had an incredible amount of spam on it, which is why they eventually shut it down. But amongst the spam and the offers of romance in faraway countries and stuff, there was a bit of talk of running and Comrades. So, and there was a coach at the time. I've forgotten his name, but it was this other guy. It was actually really, really impressive, who did give advice on the forum. But yeah, there was a lot less around. There was some stuff by Bruce Fordyce, some bits and pieces. around the place that that was quite useful. But I guess now there is a lot of information out there about comrades.
And thinking of your journey of like 1 to 10, at what point would you say you started to actually train in the way that if you were going to train now, you'd actually train?
I don't think I've trained. Well, I haven't trained properly for comrades yet, because I think I've become a much better runner the last sort of 3-4 years since I started working with Norman Wilson and doing more kind of the international side of things. And I go to comrades having run on a lot of flat ground. I mean, I seek out the flat, because my main events are on tracks and along canals and things like that. So I would love to go to comrades as my A race, which I haven't done for last couple of years, but even a couple of years before then, and really do the hill work, do the tempos on the big hills, and see if I could improve a lot on what I've done. But I think where I really started to nail it was probably the last couple, just because I think the mindset was right. I felt really comfortable. I knew I was going to run the whole way and not be walking, and I think that just shift in mindset just kind of changes the way you pace it. It changes the way that you approach the race. So, but it really, I mean, I said earlier, it took quite a few of them to learn how to run comrades, and that really is the case. I think, David, you're quite unusual in going and really just doing a fantastically good run on your first one.
And what would you? I mean, and I do still put that down to the fact that partly confidence, but partly your experience. We spoke to Camille beforehand; she gave some really good advice, and there is a lot more advice out there. I mean, what for you would you say have been the crucial element? And for the listener at home, if you don't know comrades, one of the big differences is that it's road ultra, and you just don't get road ultras that big with 25,000 people. Like what would you say has been the key parts of your training and your development specifically for that race that have been useful?
I think just the perspective on distance. So, when you start something like that, and it was for a while the only ultra I did in the whole year, so it was still getting my head around the distance. I think doing longer runs has helped. So when it's like when you've done comrades, you look back at a marathon and you go, well, actually a marathon's not very long. And when you've done 100 miler, you look at comrades and you go, well, okay, you have to run it quite quickly, but it's not a particularly long race. So that helps a lot. And even if you don't go longer, I think it's just the more, like any ultra, doing them, you just get the belief that you can get through to the end, and that you can handle what comes your way. And that just obviously breeds a certain confidence. Maybe it helps you relax a little bit and you get a bit better at thinking how you're running and racing. Maybe your pacing improves a bit. I mean, one of the things I love about comrades is the massive charge at the beginning. You just have these people just streaming out, and you can be not that far from the front, but you could be have 1,500 people ahead of you at 5Ks, just because everyone has just gone storming out. And it seems a lot of people never learn, but we all do that to some degree. And maybe we had the crap.
You're talking about Damien Lane here.
We've had the crap kicked out of us often enough. We eventually learn. Damien's he's going to nail it very, very soon. Silver in his future. But for anyone who doesn't know us, we talk about silver medals. That's kind of going under 7.5 hours, because different medals for different times at comrades. So everyone has these dreams.
And Damon will do that for sure.
He will.
And actually, that's something you mentioned there that's quite interesting. Where while it was unusual to do ultras back then, I'd say now it's almost unusual for someone to just do an ultra a year. People seem to be more they'll try an ultra out and not do necessarily another one, or they're ultra runners and will do several within even a month sometimes. Like, now that you've had both of those, what would you say is harder, like training for one ultra and having to ramp up, but then you've got that short period, that focus, and the rest of the year you don't have to do it, or having that high mileage the whole time?
Wow. Yeah. If you're just doing that one, I guess you just don't get those many opportunities to learn. So I think that kind of makes the progression difficult. It makes that race more important. So if you're doing that one thing and that's the thing the whole year, it does put a lot of pressure on. I think I've run best when I've had at least two things to look forward to and in the year, because you go, well, if this doesn't work out, then you do all the right things to make it work out. But if it doesn't, then there is something else. It's not the end of the world. Having said that, I mean, for me, I would do two big races a year, and then others is kind of more like training runs. So I'm not someone who recovers incredibly quickly. I never have. So two ultras is a lot if it's like big sort of A races. But for a lot of people, a lot of ultra runners, it's a culture, it's a community, and it's their lifestyle. So I know, a lot of mates who will run something every month or even more, and they're not that bothered about performance. It's just that it's hanging out with mates and it's just doing something, really, really nice. And then they may choose something every now and then and go, okay, I'm going to really go for that target at that race. I think that's I guess it was always like that to some degree, but I think that community has just grown a lot, hasn't it? I mean, from sort of about 10 years ago, there's just, which is great. There's just a lot of lovely people in ultra running, even in each of the kind of niche events.
And then so when, because you've now reached 10 comrades, which means brilliant, because you get a green number. Which I think, is it green? Is that right?
Yeah, it's green number. Which I knew that meant you get, when you race, they give you your race numbers green, and then you keep your number, gets retired. So my number will never be used by anyone ever again. But I hadn't expected to get an actual green number. So there's someone sat there weaving this piece of green material with my number on it, and it's really cool. They literally, one of the legends of comrades comes and hands it to you. Please don't ask me who my legend was. The name has kind of escaped me for one moment, but they literally give you this number that you can hang on your wall, and I thought for sure I'm going to get it framed and whatever, but unfortunately I haven't got to that point. But it's amazing, really is. Something worth aiming for.
Is there anything above that you can aim for, like a 2030 or?
Yeah, so the real legends, that's the thing, you see, when you think, wow, I've got green now, and then someone else has got, like, going for their triple green or their quadruple green or whatever it is. There's always somebody else doing something better. But I must say, I did fancy the green number, and it did feel really good to get that the same year when you were there as well.
Yeah, and that's what was so nice, actually, because having you go for the 10, it really gave, I could see how excited you were, and it then meant that we all learned more about all the nuances of the different colours, the different starts, the history. So when did you start to glance across then at the longer miles after comrades? Because you've really stepped up your distances.
Yeah, I think the 100-mile, I actually don't even know exactly what it was, but I did start reading blogs and even as a comrades runner, which is like, 56 miles, 100 miles just seemed really extreme and a bit just ridiculous. And I like to kind of think the more familiar you get with something, the less ridiculous, but also the less sort of crazy and absurd it seems. And the more I read, the more it just seemed like a good idea to go and do 100 miles and just to find out what it would be like. And the UK is brilliant for that. There's obviously lots of amazing 100-mile races. So it was just something that kind of happened, I guess. It wasn't. I can't actually think of a particular moment when I just went, wow, I'm going to do 100 miles. But I do remember being at a friend's party, and these were runners, and telling them I was going to do this 100-mile race. Just the looks on their faces, it was like that thing we're talking about in the early days of comrades. People just going, what? Can you survive that? Do people do that? Whereas now, even I think 5 years or whatever it is later, people are just much more aware of 100 milers than even sort of 5 years ago, even becoming more normal. normal within some contexts anyway.
And I think that there's also an element of, because we were talking a few weeks back about the Sir Chimney, I can never say it.
Sweet Chimney.
Yeah.
And the fact that people know about the 3,000 mile race, but one of the first well-known ultra track races was the one in Tooting that was also linked, I think, to his Run and Become or whatever the organisation is.
Yeah.
And so there was always this association a little bit with ultras being linked in with this kind of Buddhism and transcendentalism, and that made it seem as if ultra wasn't just a longer distance. It was this like weird thing where your body would go like leave your mind and you'd be transported to a different plane, and it's only really since that there's been so many other ultras that we've come into contact with that we've realised that that's just one branch of ultra running as opposed to what all ultra running is.
Yeah, that's a community, and by the way, they do amazing races. So I would recommend any of their races, and lovely people, the organisers. So, but yeah, there was the sort of thing where I can use the word nerdy, where you were maybe I don't know, I suppose quite niche and quite sort of out there if you did ultras. And definitely, have to, for sure you were vegan and you were all these other things, and there are obviously a lot of vegans who do ultra running, but it doesn't have to be like that. And there's so many different kinds of events now and so many different subcultures within, for example, 24-hour running. There's a whole kind of subculture within some of the race organizers, like Centurion Running almost has this amazing subculture within their kind of events. And yeah, I think there's something for everybody, because I did a 6-hour track event as a kind of a training run and to test my back and everything in December. And there were people there who were just doing their first, either it was a 50K or a few sort of steps over a marathon, and this incredible friendly environment where it was just really relaxed, and there really is just something for everyone now, which is.
And would you say there's a huge difference between like the 100-mile community and the 24-hour community in terms of the people?
There's a lot of crossover, so yeah, I don't think there's that much. I mean, I guess the difference would be, often it's the same people, but at a 24-hour event, there's such a almost intensive sense of community, because you may, for example, if it's on a track or even if it's around a 1K or 1 mile loop, you'll have people camped up around there. Not like a normal race where everyone just spreads out and you may be running by yourself for hours and hours. You're passing people, they're passing you repeatedly. You've got the crews supporting you, everybody else's crew, and you're in this sort of goldfish bowl, and everyone knows if anyone else is in trouble or what's going on. And so it does create this sort of almost like subculture on the day, and the night and the day. And so in that sense, it's a bit different. But I think that kind of flows into 100-mile running, because a lot of people do both. And I think there's something very special about 24-hour. And I think that ethos of kind of really just supporting everybody there and being interested in everybody there, I think that is a part of ultra, and it really does have it does spread more broadly from 24-hour into like 100 miles and other ultra events.
I've never thought of that actually, because have you ever had races where one person at a track meet has massively negatively impacted the atmosphere for everyone? Because that wouldn't happen in a race, where one person would have a knock-on effect on the whole race, in a good way or a bad way. It could happen at an aid station with a really good volunteer or a bad volunteer, but have you experienced that where the tone has been set by someone?
Yeah, unfortunately I have. I'm probably not going to kind of give the example, but it was just someone who I think was very new to ultra, and they didn't understand the ethos. I think it was probably their first ultra. They were at a track race, and they were kind of quite insistent on everybody giving way in the inside lane, whereas kind of at at a 24-hour race, people often do that, which is one of the wonderful things about the giving and the community. But you cannot expect someone for 24 hours to just get out of your way when they're in their own struggle. They have every right to just kind of run as well as they can. And this guy, and he's actually a decent chap. I just think didn't read the manual before he got there, and so that caused a lot of negativity for a number of hours.
So did he just keep doing that, and then everyone kind of just
for about
no one said anything to him?
7 hours. So, well, there was a few things said, but I mean that's another thing is people are generally very nice and actually quite patient, and I think everyone could see what was going to happen, and it happened at about after just a number of hours. So it wasn't going to go on for the full distance. But I think that's just a classic example of just someone learning, about a completely different culture. I suspect hadn't been in a race like that. And in fairness, I wasn't in another race with the same guy, and he didn't do that. So I think he definitely learned. But yeah, you can have
words. Do you remember the exact words he said? Time and time and time again. Because have you got it etched into your brain?
Could you imagine being on that track and just having that knowing that it's coming back round again?
That anger would build up, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, the resentment with every lap, every time. That would be incredible.
But what was the phrase?
No!
We've lost Mike! What a cliffhanger! What? Oh, he's back. He's back.
So I lost you guys there for a second.
Yeah, Mike. What was the phrase, and how did this person say it?
It was track.
Oh,
track.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, and as I say, in fairness to this guy, so he absolutely learned. Very nice guy. It was just one of those kind of cultural things, but yeah, no, it didn't go down well, and so yeah, but fortunately, it didn't last the whole time. So but yeah, so there's always going to be something. So, but that is literally the only time, and even then, as I say, it's not.
You said it stopped after 7 hours. What happened after 7 hours? Did someone lay him out? What happened?
He stopped after 7 hours.
Oh, he stopped.
Was there like a little riffle of applause from everyone?
Why are people cheering at 7 hours?
Deep sigh.
Erupting roar from the stadium.
And is that why my team is called Hour 7? I mean, maybe because of the joyous moment when whatever.
Wow.
But yeah, who knows? No, it's not. No, it's not. To be clear, but yeah, no, it was just one of those things. And that's very it's very unusual. And as I've been on a track with the same guy again, and he was lovely, and so I think it's just one of those things where someone just hadn't kind of thought it through, and was just in such a different environment.
Don't you think the ultra community loses and misses something by not having more dickheads in it? The problem is it is so full of nice people and everyone supporting. It could really do with a couple of of absolute villains who people kind of grown at, but adds a little bit of tension in the air. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well, we could work on that. Yeah, maybe we need to work on that. Although, what's the thing about saying if you're somewhere and there's no dickheads, then you can't find you, then the dickhead's probably you. One of those things, because there's always one.
Good point.
But yeah, well, let's not go there. So yeah, I mean, we could start just sort of thinking how we could be really, really kind of evil and annoying. Maybe the track.
I do feel that the BBR. The problem is that the running club take running seriously. I always felt like the running club should have been that taken up that role of absolutely ruining ultra for everyone else. But never mind. We'll have to find a persona to do it for us.
And then, so in terms of your step up to the hundreds and the transition to track, and then 24, what would you say were the big changes you've made in your approach, and what would you say are the things that have served you best in your achievements?
I tried for probably about 5 years to get into the England 100k team. So that was for the Anglo-Celtic Plate. So if anyone who doesn't know, that's an annual race between the home nations, and sometimes Ireland comes as well. And it's really your only chance as an ultra runner to be selected to run for England, I think, on the road the whole year. And for 5 years I tried, and eventually the 5th time I didn't get in. I thought, oh, well, that's it. I'll never get in. And then I wrote to the head of selectors, and said, just for a bit of feedback, which I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. And he actually introduced me to Norman Wilson, who became my coach. And Norman's coached a lot of top ultra runners in the UK. And that for me was a big step. I think actually asking for input and for feedback instead of just going, shit, I didn't get in. Yeah. And then starting to work with Norman, and he's just this august guy, and when he sort of said to me, okay, so next year when you run for England, it wasn't like if you run, it was like when you run for England. And I was like, this guy believes that I'm going to do it. He's seen what I can do. He believes in it. He believes in me. And then that really did help me with my belief. And I'd just done the 100 miler at that point, so I did have the confidence of kind of running longer as well. But then the other thing I did was, which kind of didn't form what I'm trying to do with the team, I sort of put really good people around me. So I had Norman as my coach. I have a really good physio. I went to sort of nutritionist just to check that out. I had my mental performance coach, and I thought, what do the top guys do? What do these internationals do? What can I do as a normal person that kind of gives me those same advantages? And during that time, and maybe I'm sure I got something from each of those things, but also what it gave me is just this belief, because you're getting this input from other people who know what they're talking about, and it does help your just general belief in what you're doing, and you feel supported in your running or in your endeavors. So I think that was a major thing. And then running for England, getting selected there was a big boost, and it's a great kind of step up towards trying to make the GB team, which was for me meant 24-hour, because I didn't have the speed to run 100k for GB. I could just kind of scrape the speed for England, but not GB. So yeah, it was a process, but I think the biggest thing was just opening my mind to learning, to advice, to other people's ideas, and listening to what they had to say, not losing my own sense of judgment and knowledge of myself, but just looking for the support and being willing to accept good advice. I think that helps a hell of a lot.
And you mentioned the belief there a lot. What does that actually do for you, though? Because I can understand on race day, belief maybe makes you more aggressive in what you target or set loftier goals, but how does that affect the day-to-day?
Day-to-day, I guess if you're training for something and you believe that you can achieve it, you believe you can have a positive outcome, you're more likely to go out and do the training. You're more likely to just be thinking in the right way during a run. So I don't know about you, but I might be going for a run and I'll be thinking about a race. I'll be imagining myself in the race. And it's nice to be thinking about the fact that you're going to be able to handle it and thinking about how cool it's going to be when you finish, rather than going, oh my God, this is going to be so hard, so shit, so whatever, and worrying about things. It doesn't mean that you just blindly going, wow, everything's going to be great. But if you have the basic belief that you can get a good result, whatever that means on the day, I think it does just inform your training. It informs all of your psychology before the event. It informs the way people react to you and the things that people say, because a lot of self-belief is from everything that everybody said to you, the look in the eyes of your partner when you tell them what you're going to do, the thing your coach said a year ago. All of these things, our subconscious is taking it in and informing what we think is possible. So I think belief breeds belief, in the sense that you probably will be saying things to people in a way that they will actually believe you, and probably have a more helpful look on their face when they hear what you say you want to achieve. So it's all those little subtle things
and
probably help.
The fact you mentioned like the look on your partner's face when you mention something, does that mean at some point, Jane, you've mentioned something you're going to do and she's kind of gone, ooh,
always, no.
Ooh,
I know Jane always believes that I can do it. Doesn't mean she thinks it's a good idea. But I mean, she is just, as you know Jane well. I mean, she's just immensely and wonderfully supportive, and just really does believe in me in a wonderful way. And but yeah, it doesn't mean that there's not that kind of look in her eyes. I said, well, I think you're doing a 48-hour run. It's like probably part of it. She's just thinking, oh my God, that's her sitting there or standing on the side of a track or whatever for 48 hours. So maybe some of it's just self-preservation, but yeah, no, she does. I'm very fortunate to have that, because I do know people where their partner just isn't supportive, or be like, oh God, why do you want to do that, or you can't do that, or coaches who just say dumb things that don't foster positive belief. And it doesn't mean just trying to give people a belief in things that are random or stupid or way beyond their ability, but at least just being supportive of the things that they want to achieve. And it's so critical that coaches get that right. And we do, just like partners, we do need that, and it helps if you have that.
And when you were talking, you mentioned about going to a nutritionist as well. And I know for a lot of people we all do things slightly different, but it does feel like there's a lot of information out there already. Like when you went to someone who actually consults with you, to what level are you making changes in your nutrition? Is it focused mainly on race day and getting things right there, or are you also having to think of your whole training week as focused for nutrition, and looking at what you eat every single day and every meal even based on your training?
Yeah, I'm just not that kind of person or runner. I can't go down to that level of detail or kind of structure. But I think it was just helpful to really just confirm that in general, apart from the wine, I was doing quite well with what I was getting in. In more recent times, in fact, well, actually, really with the longer ultra running, my primary focus is race day nutrition. So which is a real kind of work in progress. And one of the things I'm due to get into the lab in the next few weeks, just to sort of look at what my body's using in terms of fat and carbohydrates during different speeds, so the substrate utilization testing and all that kind of thing. I've tried lots of different things over the years, and some of that's input from nutritionists. Talking with my coach now, Robbie Britton, a lot about that. That's obviously a big area. So nutrition now means more about that. It's about gut training. It's about what I eat on all my longer runs now, to try to stop myself throwing up prodigiously in very long races, which is my primary challenge with running a long way.
When does that typically kick in?
Sorry?
When does that typically kick in?
The nausea traditionally starts about 7 or 8 hours, and but I'm very confident that won't happen my next race. I'll let you know afterwards. But I've been working on a lot of things that I think will change that. But especially the gut
seven
training.
again. It's the 7 again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It all comes down to number 7. Yeah. So, but I think if I can push it out to much later, that will help.
And how have you addressed that? Is that just through eating more when you train, or have you actually been looking at what you're eating while you're running?
It's a bit of both. So I've tried a lot of different things during races, and again, if you're doing long ultras, one of the problem is you can't very often do things at the right level of effort. So you don't get that many chances to, for example, try different food in a 24-hour or even 100-miler. So at your sort of optimal effort level. So it's sort of an ongoing thing. But the one thing I definitely realized is I would do all this reading, I would do all this stuff, but then I would go on a long run for 50K and have 2 gels or something. And then I'd go to a 24-hour race or 100-miler, have a gel every half hour or some bread or whatever it was, and expect my body to go, yay, gel every half hour. I was doing something I was utterly not used to. So, which is incredible. It's so obvious. If you want to, be good at digesting while running, then eat while running to practice. So that's probably the biggest change I've made over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, is basically spending the entire household budget on gels, especially Morton and stuff, which obviously is obscenely expensive.
Yeah, unbelievably expensive.
Yeah, which I think is going to help. But I mean, I did do a race very badly where I thought I'm not going to have any sugar. It's just going to be all savory, and it was potato, but it was terrible because when actually someone worked out for me the amount of like grams of carbs or any nutrition of any kind I'd had, it was just virtually nothing. Because actually mashed potato, you can have a giant mountain of it, and that's sort of the equivalent of half a teaspoon of soup or something. It's not very nutritious. So yeah, just things like that where I put all this thought into it. It hasn't actually been that smart. So I'm going to stick to hopefully fairly kind of normal running food. I do think the Mortons will help, and a bit of goo, just because I think they're freaking delicious. The salted caramel ones, love those. Yeah. And then a little bit of savory here and there, and just get used to eating. But then also just it's also a mindset where if I start feeling sick, who cares? It's just a feeling, and I'll deal with it, and I'll just carry on, because you get athletes who are very good at being sick. My GB teammate James Stewart's a great example. He's like amazingly good at being sick. He'll just throw up, smile, carry on, and he just doesn't let it get on top of him. So I think to cultivate more of that mindset will help as well. If I do end up, throwing up or something, that's okay.
And do you get the sense from your experience with James as well? Because we're always, particularly shorter distances, we're analysing kind of how many calories we have an hour, how many carbs our stomach can handle, 60 grams, but then you can push it up to 90 or blah, blah, blah. When you're sick, it's almost like you've cleaned the slate, right? Where you've no idea then how many carbs you've taken on, what your stomach can now take. Do you know of many rules of how to then restart your strategy for nutrition from that point on in a long race?
I don't think there is a strategy from that point on. I think when you get to that stage, like normally to the end of or actually later in these races, we always look back with hilarity at the eating plan, because at 18 hours I'm going to have a sort of maybe a biscuit with a sort of a dribble of salt, maybe a hint of lemon or something like that, whatever it is. And in fact, it's just your crew will give you anything they think that you won't throw back at them. And you'll maybe let it touch your lips, and then you'll throw it away as soon as they're not looking. And so the plans are long gone. But yeah, I mean, I think when you get sick, the idea is to ideally, which often happens anyway, kind of slow down and calm down, and try to get just a little bit of even just carbohydrate into your mouth, just a little bit of something that starts to just get something slowly into you. And then if you've got a good crew, they'll be looking at what you're eating, and they'll be trying to get you back on plan to the extent that they can. And then one of two things will happen. Either you will get back on some kind of plan and be able to run and start getting something into your system, or you will just carry on vomiting, unfortunately. And it's not that clear why. It's sometimes one and sometimes the other. But sometimes you just carry on vomiting, and there is literally nothing you can do. Anything just touches your lips, and you just throw it straight back up. So,
I mean, what would you say is the most number of times you've vomited in a race?
Unfortunately, well, it's just too many times to count. Unfortunately, it was in my debut for GB, and I started throwing up at it was about hour 13, not hour 7, about hour 13, I think. And I vomited until 24 hours. And
wow.
I mean, it was terrible. And anything just touched my lips, and they tried everything. Robbie Britton was there trying to get me to just do anything. And literally I would just gag and throw up on the track or wherever I was. And it just unfortunately happens that way sometimes. But I mean, I think of the sort of 12 athletes there, I think only 2 or 3 weren't sick at some point during the race. I mean, that's the thing about 24-hour. You've got to expect that you're going to feel unwell at some point. But I mean, you don't have to be sick, but there's always a chance. But the others were generally able to get back to that point where their systems would accept something. But yeah, unfortunately, I just carried on throwing up.
And what do you think? Like, what did that do to your body? Because a lot of, I mean, firstly, your stomach must be absolutely destroyed, but even your mouth, the amount of stomach acid coming out. But so much of, I'm talking to Coach Jacob, I know that he's a big advisor of taking gels on runs just because it speeds up your recovery afterwards. And so if you're running something like a 24-hour race and actually you've had 0 calories since hour 13, your body's going to be completely drained of everything and the ability to repair itself even within those hours. So do you really notice the difference in your recovery when you have had a good session of being sick?
It probably does slow things down. I mean, after a 24-hour race or 100-mile, you're going to be stuffed anyway. And as I said, I don't recover that quickly, but it will be worse. I mean, during that GB experience at LB, I mean, it was just a struggle to walk straight and to stay upright at times. And that's why I'm very proud of my performance there, because I stayed out there for the full 24 hours. And it was actually the first time the entire GB team have ever done that. Both men and women were out there for the full 24. So I'm very, very
glad. Of puke all across the inside.
You would not believe it. I tell you, that race, it was just unbelievable. Just puke everywhere. It's a 1 mile loop. And just constantly people puking.
Just to see a weird swimming pool.
And worse, I have never seen someone. No, I won't. Let's not go there. Or do even worse things like right next to a run course. Let's put it that way. But so it's absolutely. So yeah, it does. I mean, the recovery definitely takes longer. I did have a weird experience because I love chocolate, but normally makes me feel a bit ill after a certain amount. But about 3 days after that race, I ate this mountain of chocolate, and I just kept eating, and I did not feel ill. It was like my body just wanted this stuff, and it was amazing. It was brilliant for that day. Unfortunately, the next day I tried it again, and it didn't work out. But I think my body just needed something and needed stuff. And I mean, you lose a lot of weight, obviously being ill like that. But I mean, it's only temporary, and I think. I mean, people say, well, is what you do unhealthy? And I believe that most of what we do is incredibly healthy as ultra runners, because there's the training, there's the mental side where you've got this thing you're aiming for, there's the sense of achievement, there's all these positives. So, but on those days when we really take everything out of ourselves, it's not healthy. You wouldn't recommend that to anybody to feel great. So I just accept that I'm going to feel a bit crap for a while, and that's okay.
Now, when we met at the run show, that was the first time you mentioned the idea of. I think it's the first time you mentioned the idea of setting up a race team, which, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't really exist. A format like that in the UK, let alone ones I've heard. I know about Atlanta. We've interviewed. That's a very different proposition, but talk us about the thinking behind creating a team like that.
As far as we know, it's the first one of its kind in the world. So yeah, it is quite groundbreaking in that sense. It's the idea behind it is to give some ultra runners who are at a high level the opportunity to have world-class expert support around them, the opportunity to have training camps, altitude camps, all the things basically many of the things as they would get as possible as they would get if they were running Olympic events. So if you become, for example, a GB runner and you're doing one of the Olympic track events, you get a whole infrastructure around you. And that's because of, there's lottery funding available and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're a GB ultra runner, then, I mean, as 24-hour runners, we're very lucky to have Robbie Britton and John Parris there to help us and to guide us. But basically, there's nothing in terms of all these other areas of support. And it's just because it's not because there's a lack of goodwill. It's just there's a lack of money. It's not there. So I thought it would be great if we could put that kind of structure around some ultra runners, and it's something I believe should happen. and I think it will feed in very positively to kind of GB ultra running, but also just at a kind of, it's almost like what is a passion project to a large degree. I just want some runners to have that. I want to see what happens, and I want us to kind of see where it goes. That was sort of the first part. And then the other idea was, I'm very interested in the science of endurance, so both the physical side and very much the mental side also. So the team is sort of an opportunity to talk to people, to go out there, to look at what's being done on the scientific side and say what makes sense, what should we try, and also say what can we add. So can we add something by doing a study? Can we find a new technique that aids perception of effort that might be helpful to other runners, or people just doing difficult things, and then to be able to share what we learn, so that the sharing is going to be a big part of the team as well. So that's kind of the background, and hour 7 is the sort of the result of that. And yeah, it's been quite a while sort of so I've been thinking about it for a while, and I think we spoke about it a while ago, but obviously now we're making it happen, and we launched a month ago.
And why, firstly, why hour 7 for the listener, but also how does this then fit within or alongside or crossing over the GB infrastructure or the 24-hour infrastructure, and does it compete, does it clash, does it complement?
I think it'll complement the GB setup, because a few of our all of our runners, we're starting with 6 athletes, but they've all either run for GB or will very soon run for GB. So I think everything we do will help them hopefully become even better runners, and they should then be able to perform better for GB. The things we're doing don't exist within the GB ultra running environment. So we're making things like lab testing on physiology available to the athletes, the kind of one-on-one nutritional support, advice on strength training, psychological coaching, mental performance coaching. These things just are not available to a GB ultra runner. So there's no conflict. I think it's more a case of saying, obviously we're starting with our 6 athletes. We hope to take that to 10 or 12 later this year. But then of the things that we do and learn, to what extent can we engage with the GB squads and maybe make some of the things we're doing available to more of those athletes? I mean, that's part of the longer term plan, is to be able to do that, because that would be wonderful. That would be really, really exciting to be able to affect positively as many athletes as possible. You asked about the name as well. Sorry, I didn't tell you about that. Well, I think we've established, obviously, hour 7 comes up all over the place, but it was really, we had a bit of a chat, you and I, David, about the name, and it was great to bounce ideas around, and ultimately what we decided on is something. We didn't want something like hill chuggers or something. We want something slightly not something people would have to ask, what's that about? What does that mean? Because it's slightly cryptic, because it's not. Yes, thank you, cryptic. That's the word I was looking for.
Slightly digital marketing agency. That
maybe that too. Yeah. And hour 7 it's kind of a metaphor for that time when things start to get really difficult, and you're faced with some decisions. You can either back off, you can push on through, you can see what lies, almost like a gateway to endurance. You can see what lies beyond, and you can go out and meet the challenge. And it's kind of a metaphor, not just in running, it's sort of in life as well, because we can sort of be going through an hour 7 or face that time of difficulty and challenge that's also so filled with opportunity, and decide what we're going to do with it. So when that idea came up, it's just about the hour 7 as well sounds great, and it's the kind of time in a race where things are starting to get really serious if you're doing a longer event. And so yeah, it just kind of felt right. And when we were putting names out to people and sort of saying, what about this, we give them a little list, they kept going, wow, hour 7, that's really nice, I like that. So it just kind of stuck.
And then you've mentioned then about some of the things that the runners will receive as part of being out in hour 7. Like how is this funded currently, and what is the intention with things like sponsors and the growth of the finances of the club, and also what are you going to do about potential conflicts with people's individual sponsors and then our 7 sponsors?
Yeah. So at the moment, it's funded by myself and my co-founder, Dom Ashdown, so who's also just very passionate about sport in general and about running. So this is something we wanted badly enough to happen. So we're putting our own money into getting it going. We are sort of longer term. Obviously, the future will be sponsorship. We just announced today, actually, our kit sponsor, which is the Danish company Sky, which is
cool.
Really, and they do have incredibly cool, kind of slightly edgy, urban, but amazingly good quality kit. And yes, we're really chuffed about that. But yeah, so we're absolutely looking for sponsors, and we will be looking to grow the team with us. We will also establish some kind of commercial streams along the sides to make the team viable longer term, because there's so much we could do. We'd love to do a lot of sort of science studies, and we love to grow the team. We love to communicate what we learn. We love to add athletes, and we may even take the model into other countries. So there's a lot of possibility, and we'll just see where it goes. But yeah, of course, sponsors will be important in finding kind of the right kind of revenue streams that builds the team in a positive way will be important as well.
And I guess that's will be the challenge. Is you talked about wanting to replicate what athletes in an Olympic qualifying athletes would receive, but part of the reason they receive that, it is lottery funding, but also because of the exposure that the television, the Olympics, things like that give, and that's something that is very hard to replicate. So for the brands, I mean, without necessarily saying what Sky has said, but from your conversations you've had with brands, do you think that there is the ability out there to give back to the brand their funding in you, in exposure and positive reflection for them? And what type of things do you think they'd be looking to get from you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Our conversations have only just started. And that was the great thing about Sky. I mean, they were literally the first guys we contacted, and they said, yes, we're keen, we're interested. We really like what you're doing, because we're doing something completely different. So I think the sponsors are going to be organizations or even individuals who like the fact that we're stepping into, to some degree, the unknown, but we're doing something that's not been done before, that has so many positive connotations in terms of advancing athletes, advancing British ultra running, but also about the things that we can learn from this and how we might be able to share them more broadly with not just other athletes, but maybe other areas. So the example we would use is, let's say we figure something out about endurance that's helpful to a firefighter fighting a double shift, in a major incident, for example. So I think for sure there's going to be plenty for them there in terms of brand values. There's obviously we need to build our audience. So today helps a lot. So thanks guys for having me on the show today. And like any new organization, we do need to build the audience. I think as we share more and more about what we've learnt, I think that's going to be, we hope to become a place that people come to for best in class kind of learning about endurance, basically endurance science, but kind of put forward in a very simple way through, for example, a case study and things like that. So the audience will be important. I think also if you're an organization that, if you look at the brand values of what we're doing as a team, or the kind of the ethos where, hard work, dedication, determination, all of these kind of things are something with which you would want your own team to identify. And I think for the right organization to be able to go, hey guys, we're teaming with our 7. These are the things that they do. You look at the kinds of people we've got there. We've got like Sam Amend, who's just broken the British 100-mile record. and she's got kids and she works full time, and she, how is that even possible? For example, these are massively inspiring people, and that just being part of something that I think adds very positively to the internal culture of an organization, let alone obviously as a message to take externally in terms of anything that they would want to say to their customers. So I think there's a lot there, and it's just finding obviously the right sponsors and the right people who can see that, and where there's real alignment.
And in terms of the ambition then for your runners, will you be, because Say Sky, for example, kit sponsor, Team GB on Say Sky for their kit. So does that create issues with, are you therefore going to try and get your athletes to target as their big races non-British races, non-national races, because that's what the kit will allow? Or will they then have to do several races, or will there have to be compromises made with like the national team to ensure that the sponsors can get the benefit of them performing well for the country?
Yeah, no, not at all. There's no compromise. I mean, we just want our athletes to run the races that they want to run. So, and we're there to help them and to help them do that. And running for GB is the greatest privilege in running. If you're a British athlete, and if they have a chance to do that and they want to, then they absolutely must. And we'll watch them there with their GB kit with huge pride. And there's plenty of other races where they'll be wearing their their R7 kit with Say Sky, and that's just fine. So ultimately this is about the athletes and us getting the best for them, and them achieving the incredible and doing the most that they possibly can, whatever that means for them. There will be things like where we do target races as a team, and there'll be no surprise for you to know that my dream would be to take a team to Comrades hopefully next year, and go and try to mix it up with the top South African teams, and that would be wonderful. So something like that we may do as a team. But in general, if GB is kind of the pinnacle, and if our team run for GB, we're just very proud they're doing so.
And actually, I think you could do really well, because we were, even when we went, we were looking at what would happen if you, me, Damo, Rob, or Claire all came in well. And I think we'd have done not that bad actually for a team of four. Was it 4 or 6 that you need? I can't remember.
It's 3, I think, actually. 3 or 4. Okay. I think it's 3. Gungahdin's 3, I think. We didn't do bad at all, actually. We would have done. We were up there. I'm not kind of up there as in threatening to win it, but we were. We did pretty well. And
then in teams, in terms of recruitment and things like that, then how are you going to decide who makes the team and who doesn't? Are there certain criteria you're going to look for in the athletes?
Really difficult, because you can imagine for every athlete that we kind of tap on the shoulder, there's 10, 20 who are as deserving, just are also really nice people, really have so much promise. So it was difficult. I suppose some of it sort of is almost an accident in that it's people we know quite well. I mean, there's plenty of people we know really well that we didn't, but it's really difficult, and we wish obviously we could have done brought on more than the 6. I mean, certainly our athletes are all people who have a lot of promise. They're all people who want to build a team, who will contribute to the ethos of the team. And they're all people who want to, as I say, who are still keen to learn, who are just nice people as well. I mean, we did a film shoot at Cheddar Gorge just before we launched to get some video for the clips for the website and stuff. And it was just such an amazing day. I was just like, shit, these are such nice, brilliant people, and enthusiastic and positive, but it's still, as I say, for every one of those, there's another 10 or 20 people we know who we would have loved to have brought onto the team. I mean, we are thinking of doing some kind of a process where we just ask people to let us know if they're interested. Please not now, but at some point we might have maybe sort of after the summer or whenever it is, and use that as a way just to hear about athletes we're not aware of, because of course we don't know everybody. I say we, that's mainly Robbie Britton, who's our team manager, and myself. So yeah, something like that would help, but it really is difficult. I mean, in some cases we are also doing things like wanting to have a spread of events. So we're covering the mountains and the track and the road, which did help as well. So we weren't just choosing, 6 mountain runners or 6 24-hour runners. So in a way that makes it more difficult, but once you've decided on one, you're kind of then looking in a completely different area for a different kind of athletes. So but yeah, it's a headache, but it's a good one, because I mean, the athletes we approached were all just really just positive and really excited to get involved. So it's up to us now as a team to deliver, so that when they're out there and they're saying, wow, this is great, we love being part of this, that other athletes want to get involved. And even if they can't be directly involved, we want to find ways that we can kind of share as much as possible the things that we do and the things that we learn with as broadly as possible.
And I mean, when we created an OCR obstacle race team with Claire Miller, John Album, who you maybe know as well, and a few others. What really helped there was having a big rival team like RPCC. That meant when we were turning up to races, people were choosing which team they wanted to win, and it created this really fun rivalry. Like, do you think if this goes well, we're going to see more ultra teams globally or in the UK? And is that something you welcome, or something you'd be like, oh man, that was our idea?
It'll always be our idea. That's the thing. If you're first, we'll have the idea. If it happens, it'll be great, because it'll be more runners being helped. It'll mean that the teams will become stronger. It's not easy to start something like this, to be honest, just because just obviously the cost and getting the right expertise around the athletes. But I think if we're successful, absolutely other people will do it, and I think that will be great, because it will be a sign that it has worked and that we're successful. And maybe then we go and we fight it out at the Comrades or wherever it is, somewhere in some 100-mile here with those teams. So that would be a great result.
And could you ever see it being an Olympic sport? Ultra, 100 track, 24?
I think 24 maybe in a couple of 100 years, but I think 100K definitely. I think 100K, there's definitely a basis for that. And I mean, it'd be wonderful if it was 24 hours, just because it's such a different kind of event. And maybe, who knows, maybe 24 hour with something like the Olympics or even the Commonwealth Games, where we have had the 24-hour in that as a demonstration event. It just takes those one or two people who just have the passion to drive it and to make it, and to go to the authorities to do the demonstration events and to make it to make the case and to make it an event. And we haven't quite had that. I mean, we've had amazing people involved in 24-hour and in ultra running in this country who've done so much for the sport, and they've done everything but that, really. And they have, as I said, got it into the Commonwealth Games. So I think at some point there'll be someone who does do that. And probably it's going to depend whether their passion is 24-hour or 100K as to which one it would be. But it would be wonderful. But unfortunately, it will be after my time as an athlete. But certainly, maybe I'll still be a team manager there. Then we'll see.
So, quick questions. So Rob Trouble, we've already mentioned. He was wondering to what extent the music of Neil Diamond has inspired your running career, and if not,
Rob's we always have this ongoing thing about Neil Diamond, as you can tell. Rob Shulman's actually Neil Diamond's #1 fan. He's just ashamed to admit it, so he's just kind of a bit frightened to admit it. But Neil's at the center, obviously, of everything that I do, and obviously a major influence in my ultra running career, for sure.
Favorite Neil Diamond song?
Well, the thing about Neil Diamond is I like a lot of the songs that he's written, but with other people singing them. Well, I do like Neil Diamond, and not as much as perhaps Rob suggests. So I'm struggling at this moment to think of something. Let's go with "I Am," I Said. It's a nice something with a nice chord.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. Hey, cool.
I've been banned from Pontin's karaoke for life for singing that song. Yeah,
Really?
in an aggressive way. And then one more question we've got. Oh no, I can't find the question now. Another question just to bring up if I can quickly find it. Where's it gone? Damn it, I can't do my Instagram properly. Well, before we go then, quick plug for the book then. What would you say about it?
It's amazing. No, just kidding. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, so the book One Track Mind, really about a lot of the things we've been talking about today, especially that sort of sense of community around a track. So the whole book takes place around a 24-hour time frame, and although obviously with lots of reflections into other things that happened at other times, but I think really just if someone's interested in just looking at the community and some of the amazing people that are part of it, and just sort of I guess reading about an immensely positive experience that certainly for me was pretty life-changing, then I hope they'll be interested to read the book.
And what's the best place for them to buy it?
Amazon, absolutely. If you go to Waterstones or something, it takes forever for them to deliver. Thanks, Waterstones. So just go to Amazon, get it there, and yeah, they pretty much next day, much better.
And it's a really easy read as well. It really flows almost in the rhythm of a 24-hour run. So yeah, go out and get it. So if people want to apply or get involved or just follow the Hour 7 team, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so we're at Team Hour 7, or go to our website, which is Hour 7 with just the number 7.com. So hour7.com, really easy. And yeah, so they're all Team Hour 7 on all social media. And yeah, that'd be great. Or of course, if they've got any ideas, or if they are interested in sponsoring us, then please either through those routes or drop me a line at Michael Stocks Runner is my social media, or through Hour 7. And obviously, we'd love to talk to you.
And
yeah,
who would be your dream sponsors other than Say Sky? If you could wish up like 2 or 3, are there any in particular that you could give a cry out to, like, come get us, guys?
Come get us. My goodness. Well, I've already mentioned the price of Morton's gel. So hey guys, I think we probably we think your stuff could really help us not throw up. So yeah, that'd be very, very helpful. There's big corporates out there who I don't think that it has to be sports. I really think that the ethos of what we're doing, I think there's a lot of corporations or even slightly smaller companies where you tell your team, your staff, or your customers what we're doing and the kinds of stories behind the team. I think they're going to love it, and I think it's going to be really inspiring to them. So I think any of those kind of corporations, and we're not talking huge amounts of money here. So yeah, give us a call.
7-Eleven?
7-Eleven, there you go. Perfect, yeah.
Shed 7.
7-Eleven.
7 Up.
That's fine, yeah. 7 Up. Okay, I'm going to take some notes. Good point, yeah. All the watch companies, obviously, anything to do with time, anything to do with long distances, lasting a long time. So just give us a shout.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thanks so much, Mike. Congratulations on an incredible running career. Thanks so much for getting me into to Run Comrades, and good luck with Hour 7. I know we'll be staying in touch about it individually, but if there's anything we can do as a podcast to help you with that journey, let us know.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it, and just so good talking to you.
It's always good speaking to Mike.
Yeah, it's really not, and it's been a real pleasure just to have known him for so many years. The fact that
I feel like I've spoken to him loads. I mean, I've only ever spoken to him twice, tonight and at the running show. Yet he's the type of person who you feel like you've just known for ages.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. He's got that type of tone or that kind of that aura about him or something. It feels like, yeah. Are you sure he's not been disguised as other guests and come on and people?
I think like his wife as well is so lovely. They're just such nice people. And it's it's strange in some respects that it's almost like he's recognised that there's not enough funding of teams and it needs someone outside of the structure of like GB, England, ultra running to drive the sport forwards. And there is an element where you'd hope that sponsors would do this and that they'd be looking into it. But I guess ultra's just not big enough outside UTMB at the moment for them to do that.
Yeah. It's like that thing, and I wonder if it's going to work in the same way in terms of getting sponsors. It's like that thing where if you're within the ultra community, and I include the different elements of the industry within the ultra as well.
Yeah.
You look at certain things and you make comparisons against it. You go, well, this is the best. This is what we consider the best, and anything that doesn't fall, we don't think is deserving of funding. Whereas if you step outside of the industry, like those companies who are committing sponsorship to things, because they haven't got a benchmark against which they're going to judge these things. They can objectively look at them and go, this stuff's really impressive. This stuff's incredibly, amazing what they're doing, and see it on its own merits as opposed to comparing it with other, other types of races, other types of teams, other types of thing, and just seeing it for its own thing, which I think it's probably the best chance of getting funding, isn't it? From people who want to be associated with athletic performance. Yeah,
like a Volvo.
Yeah, exactly.
There's loads of, especially just you can even see the advert of the story, and
well, you can see the socials, can't you? That's where you really the socials, the corporate events where people are showing up for it, being associated with it.
Especially your watch with the running around the track. It's like running up face, and you can see the advert. It pans from the watch ticking round to the runner ticking round, and that's the thing. If you think about running and how even within running, the Nike trainers come along and have revolutionised it. We're going to talk in a bad stuff probably last week or 2 weeks ago about a new discovery of a new berry that has improved race times at 5Ks by 2%. And there's still all these changes that are happening in running, but actually in ultra running, there's so many things we don't understand. And the fact Mike's talking about representing
why is the main one.
Yeah, what? Yeah, true. Yes. Other than divorce, why? But Mike's there talking about puking for 11 hours of a 24-hour race. And we spoke to Shona, who's a specialist in sleep, and Robbie Britton, who you mentioned, who also was talking about trying to master sleep and how little we know about sleep and about gut biome.
There's so many variables, isn't there? Yeah, I mean, if you, even if the good thing about the marathon and like road marathons is that even within that there's a lot of variables, but in terms of there's a certain amount of time that's going to be completed in. There's a certain amount of lack of variability because of the terrain, and the distance are the same. And so anything that you could have come up with around that, at least it has that baseline. You start talking about ultras and 24, just the variables throw everything out the window.
Yeah, and we're so far off getting someone who knows exactly what they're doing, and maybe we are with Stanya and the way he steps up on 24-hour racing. But I'm sure there's huge amounts and particularly the balance between weight training is hugely beneficial to any distance, but there must be
still so casual, isn't it? So casual, it's just thrown out as weight training, there doesn't seem to be a concerted effort to really work out what the what the optimum balance is between weight training, and who would be working this out, because the thing is, I think with a lot of people, if you're really good at what you're doing, you're never going to change that massively. The only way that you will change what you're doing is if you're seriously failing, and you go through that process. You almost need like a Dave Asprey of running, like someone who literally is going to spend their time biohacking the whole.
We need every country to like just start again and have some random country that's just decided to do it a different way, and they just suddenly emerge. And that's because we're re-looking at training plans with Caffeine Bill at the moment to try and improve all distance training plans, because to a certain extent things like marathon training plans, half marathons, couch to 5K, they're all established, but it doesn't mean they're perfect. And so we're going back to all the different theories of it and trying to look at the nuances of splitting days, of just slightly changing each element. But there aren't even training plans for 24-hour races or 12, even 100-hour. There's no set one. So, yeah, I mean, good luck to Mike, because it really could have a transformational impact on how we view 100 milers, 124 hours, and how we approach them. And as he said, actually, when you're looking at the body through that much stress and through that much fatigue, he's right in that there could be spin-out companies or even spin-out concepts that help shift workers, help firemen, help all these other people that put their body through stress and for prolonged periods. So who knows? It's a clever play at just a new performance consultancy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also a good way of kind of like spinning it out in sort of, there's multiple uses which potential sponsors will want to be involved in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Sponsors, yeah. Oh, yeah. And there might be there may be a way of mining crypto this way as well, possibly, and affecting the end of climate change. But you never know. You never know what comes out of these. So it's worth investing in it, investing for that purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Well, D-Rans, thanks for listening. And if there's guests or subjects you'd like us to talk about in the future, then messages, because we go out and we get them for you. Message me, david@badboyrun.com, or letters@badboyrun.com. If you want to ask questions to the guests in the future, then follow us on Instagram.
If you want to join the conversation, you can head over to Facebook. Type in 3 questions. Well, type in the answers to 3 questions. Don't type in 3 questions. That won't make any sense. Type in the answers to 3 questions that we'll ask you. One of the questions is, what is your favorite 90s reggae star? If you write, I wasn't born, you will automatically be rejected. I just cannot stress this enough. That is not a suitable answer. I was not born. Surely no. I don't even understand the concept. If you want to buy merch, we've got store.badboyrunning.com. Also, you'll notice if you're watching this on YouTube, so if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment, subscribe, in order to keep getting these videos. You'll notice that every now and then, if you're watching it, then I'll pop up with a little camera. That's because what we're doing is we're going to start doing Instagram lives when we're during part of the recording. So and we record on Tuesday nights. So if you know that that's going to happen, you can look out, see if we've got a guest on, and ask questions while we're going through on the Instagram live, and we'll read those out as well. So keep an eye out for that in the future. I'm being very, very ambitious here trying to do this. So this may only last for 2 weeks or so, but at least I'm setting that ambition. I'm setting my stall out there as to that's something we're gonna continue to do. But at least it gives you a teaser as to what might be coming up in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
And I just thought we probably should have told our guests that Jody was doing that throughout the interview, just so that he wasn't looking really engaged.
Sticking around on this. I did it a lot of the running show as well. Like, we were on stage at the running show, and because I thought, well, there's three presenters on stage, I'll use this opportunity to start doing videos and things like that in order to do it. But it just looks like I'm on my phone. Like I've got bored with the interview, and I'm just
no explanation. And there is a way in which you can leave messages for us. We're going to play out and integrate into future episodes. I can't find where it is though, but it's in the Facebook group, so get in there to search it. And at some point, we're going to remember what it is and start saying it on every episode. So please look out for those. Please do subscribe. Please review, especially on Spotify. You need to do it on your mobile. And thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next time.
See you later.